the Nation.
State of the Nation with Edmond, Obilo.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us on the State of the Nation on Rave 91.7 FM. My name is Femi Olanipekun, and I'll be standing in for a regular host on the program this afternoon. Edmond Obilo is unavoidably absent on the show today. I will be starting with what's happening on the internationals and international politics. I'd like to start with this quote from John Maishma, who wrote the book The Tragedy of Great Power Politics in 2001. He said, states have two kinds of power, latent power and military power. States have two kinds of power, latent power and the military power. Now, the world is a complicated place, and international politics makes it more complex and competitive. Global politics is more about conspiracy, it's about deception, it's about games of wit and interest of the players, and millions have died from the politics of dominance played by the big powers in their efforts to reshape the world to meet their ideals. The results are world wars. The results we have for us are genocide, Holocaust, humanitarian assistances, and in some cases scientific and technological development. The damages that result from the interplay of interest at the global level is mostly influenced by the weaponry systems of the big powers. The inhabitants of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan will always remember the devastating damage inflicted on their land by the atomic bombs dropped by the United States in 1945 to bring to an end World War II on the Eastern Front. The wars in the Balkans and the Congo have destruction similar to those caused by World War I and World War II. While people died, the military-industrial complexes in the advanced countries continue to grow, and the profits by producing and selling arms that fuel crises around the world. Well, I'll tell you a story, but just before that story, let me remind you of the controversial journalist Femi Ololoyo, the daughter of one-time governor of Oyo State, Dr. Victor Ololoyo. Now, Femi was recently released from Port Harcourt prison after spending 881 days rather. She spent 81 days in detention. She was remanded in prison for purportedly publishing materials believed to have defamed an influential cleric, Pastor David Ibiomi of the Salvation Ministries in Port Harcourt in Rivers State. Now, Femi Ololoyo, she will tell a story, tell a prison story on this edition of A State of the Nation. Let's listen to this first.
You have babies in prison?
Yeah, babies and children in the prison that live with us.
Babies belonging to inmates?
To inmates, yeah.
Who takes care of the babies?
We do. All of us.
Not the Nigerian state?
No.
The Nigerian state doesn't care about the babies?
They don't do much. Nigerian prisons depends on the NGOs. The NGOs come and bring those diapers. The NGOs bring those baby food. But most of the time, family members have to show up with some of the stuff. And some of these girls have no family members. Ruth came to Port Harcourt as a house girl from Jos.
You watch these children roam the prison?
Yeah. They roam around the prison. The babies at night, okay, you see cell 2 where all those ballet girls are. We call them ballet girls. Those cell 2 girls, when they deliver, they have to move to cell 1. The minute they enter cell 1, we tell them, look, this is privileged area, okay? Number 1, no dirt, no crap, and we have rules here. You're in a hotel now, okay? Cell 1 ain't like cell 2. And most importantly, if we hear your baby crying at night and wake us up, we will beat you.
That is brutal.
It is brutal, but if that baby wakes us up at night, Obilo, that's just the way it is in prison.
You're talking about a baby.
You put your breast out and put it. Okay, in the middle of the night.
You're talking about a baby.
2 a.m. Obilo. 2 a.m. You start hearing 3 babies at the same time. Grace's baby, Ruth's baby, Blessing's baby. You will hear Chioma at the end. she sleep. You hear Kemi, hey, put that baby on the breast.
This is crazy. What are you
That's the
talking
way
about? It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Babies in prison.
Nigerian prison services.
The dirty prison.
They cannot do it alone.
Did you tell me of a story of one of the babies dipping his or her hand into
Feces.
Oh,
Yeah, let me tell you about that. At Port Harcourt Maximum Prison, when the men's side flush the toilets, we, the women's side, get their raw sewage. If you flush the toilet, after you go and poop in the toilet, look at what's in that toilet. You flush it. It's going to come out in a pipe just like that on the women's side in the gutter. It's coming towards us where we cook too, near the kitchen. Yeah.
how did you cope with the smell?
You put your clothes on your nose, you vomit, and then the most frustrating, Obilo, is when they lock us back up. We're only out 8 hours a day, 9 to 5. When they lock us up at 5 o'clock, inside. If that stuff starts, you can't eat all the food you cooked, because that's what we're doing to get in fast. Cooked our food at dinner. It's a frustration. It is frustrating.
Did you complain to the prison
Always complain.
authorities?
We always complain. There's nothing they can do.
Nothing?
The male inmates came and they broke a suck away just to take poop out, and we were watching them. One of the male inmates said to us, I would never do this on the outside if I had this kind of job. This is part of my hard labor for my sentence that we're doing. They were covered with feces. Yeah. Big giant rats inside them. Snakes. Cobra with the head like this.
Oh,
Inside the suck away. When they saw a snake, they came to call me. Hey, Mommy K, there's a snake.
you went to the wilderness of pain.
Not really. I wasn't in pain one time. I was a journalist. They made a mistake locking up a journalist. I saw 30 news stories every day. My book is going to be hot.
All right, well, controversial journalist Kebi Omololu Olunloyo there telling us just a snippet, just kind of a nice and a tip of the iceberg. Really, you get to hear her story, her prison story, right here on the State of the Nation today. Well, by the way, Kemi Omololu Olunloyo is the daughter of former Oyo State Governor Victor Omololu Olunloyo and the second of 10 children. She lived here in Nigeria for some time, lived in the United States, and also lived in Canada before she was deported back here in Nigeria. Very controversial blogger and journalist. You heard her there say that the Nigerian government made a mistake in sending her to prison and that she got like 30 news stories every day. You get to hear about some of those stories today. Now, let me get back to my story. I wanted to tell you about initially before giving you that snippet from Kemi Omololu Olunloyo. Now, Rafi Aitan was a trained Israeli assassin and kidnapper. As a strategic member of Israel's intelligence service, the Mossad, he led the team that went to Argentina to kidnap the Nazi warlord Adolf Eichmann. Eichmann supervised the killing of about 6 million Jews during the Second World War. And after that war, Eichmann and others provided the intelligence Israel needed to hunt down its prowling adversaries. They made Israel's secret service, Mossad, one of the most dreaded secret service in the world. Now, when it became clear that Rafi Eichmann was getting bored with the constant reshuffling in Mossad, Israel's prime minister at that time appointed him the director of the Bureau of Scientific Liaison, known by its Hebrew acronym, LACAM. Alright, as the director of LACAM, he had different ideas of meeting the goals of liaison. He and others were mainly concerned about having a powerful Israel acting outside the shadows of the United States of America because they were not satisfied with U.S. diplomatic maneuvers in the Middle East. Now, one way of achieving this was the development of nuclear weapons for an Israel encircled by enemy Arab nations. It is important to know that the destruction the atomic bomb inflicted on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan fascinated ambitious great powers, leading to the nuclear race that ensued after the World War II. In its secret service circle, Israel did not hide its ambition to acquire a weapon that would instill fear in its enemies, but it went about this secretly. The execution of Eichmann in 1962 and the victory of Israel over the Arab world in the Six-Day War emboldened the Zionists in the corridors of power. To the Prime Minister then, David Ben-Gurion, Israel needed nuclear weapons to ensure its survival in the Middle East. This agreement, however, started in 1956 when France sent a 24-megawatt reactor to Israel. Ben-Gurion, the Prime Minister at that time, announced its purpose was to provide a pumping station to turn the desert into an agricultural paradise. The claim led to the resignation of 6 of the 7 members of the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission. The members protested that the reactor was actually intended to be the beginning of a political adventure that would pitch the world against Israel. They were right about the suspicion, as it soon became clear that the reactor was meant for the purpose of producing nuclear weapons. Israel's leading military strategists were against the idea also of a nuclear bomb. Yigal Allon, a hero of the War of Independence, roundly condemned the nuclear weapon option. Yitzhak Rabin, who would later become Israel's prime minister, was equally vocal in his condemnation of the idea. Despite the fierce opposition, the Rafi Eintons went to work selling dummies of the seat to America and the rest of the world on Israel's nuclear ambition. The Mossad was able to penetrate America's intelligence circle for information on nuclear materials and how to get them. They found an accomplice in an American with a Jewish origin, Dr. Salman Shapiro. He was the chief executive of the Nuclear Materials and Equipment Corporation, NUMEC, in the United States. He provided the Demora reactor in Israel with fissionable materials. Now, the United States was suspicious of Israel's move, but either chose to pretend about what was going on in order not to upset the balance in the Middle East, or it probably was fooled by Israel. However, the United States suspected Israel moves and insisted on inspecting Israel's nuclear facilities. And in the heat of that argument, Israeli Prime Minister Ben-Gurion flew to New York to meet with the then President of the United States, J.F. Kennedy, to convince him that Israel's nuclear program was for peaceful purposes, but Kennedy did not budge. He stood his ground that inspectors must visit to ensure that Israel was on the right path. The reaction of Kennedy at that time convinced Ben-Gurion that a Catholic in the White House was a bad news for Israel. And after much negotiation, Kennedy agreed to send in only U.S. inspectors instead of inspectors from the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency. That option was more better for Israel. Israel was more comfortable with a particular option of having only U.S. inspectors other than UN inspectors. But before the inspectors arrived, Israel built a bogus control center over the real one at Dimona in the Negev desert. The center had fake control panels and computer line gauges that gave a credible impression of measuring output of a reactor engaged in irrigation scheme to transform the Negev desert into lush agricultural land. This meant that the more the American inspectors looked, the less they saw. But I have asked over and over again, why? Was that really possible? Many people feel that, especially in America, many Americans feel that Americans were sympathetic to the cause of Israel and did not mind her having its own nuclear weapons to defend herself. However, Israelis' strong and dangerous secret service Mossad also played its role in this deceptive game. Israel, as of now, is yet to declare that it is a nuclear power, but the world knows that it has nuclear warheads. While Israel succeeded, India and Pakistan borrowed a leaf by following the secret path to develop their own nuclear weapons against the principles enshrined in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran and North Korea are two other countries presently at the threshold of developing their own nuclear arsenals. Iran is saying that its nuclear ambition is for peaceful purposes, like Israel said its own was for agricultural purposes. America and its allies are against Iran's nuclear ambition. And after years of sanctions, the Obama government signed a nuclear deal with Iran, after which sanctions were then lifted. Before the nuclear deal was signed, Iran could enrich uranium to a high purity level, closer to the mark for nuclear weapons. And in 2009, then CIA Director, later U.S. Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, predicted that Iran could have a bomb sometime between 2010 and 2015 if not checked. And so if you look at the dynamics in the Middle East, a nuclear Iran is a threat to Israel. Iran insists that Israel be wiped off the map, and Israel strongly feels that a nuclear Iran is a threat to its survival. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking at the United Nations General Assembly last week, did not mince words while stating Israel's resolve to check Iran's ambition in the Middle East.
2 years ago, I stood here and explained why the Iranian nuclear deal not only doesn't block Iran's path to the bomb, but actually paves it. Because the restrictions placed on Iran's nuclear program have what's called a sunset clause. Now, let me explain what that term means. It means that in a few years, those restrictions will be automatically removed, not by a change in Iran's behavior, not by a lessening of its terror or its aggression. They'll just be removed by a mere change in the calendar. And I warned that when that sunset comes, a dark shadow will be cast over the entire Middle East and the world. Because Iran will then be free to enrich uranium on an industrial scale, placing it on the threshold of a massive arsenal of nuclear weapons. That's why I said 2 years ago that the greater danger is not that Iran will rush to a single bomb by breaking the deal, but that Iran will be able to build many bombs by keeping the deal. Now, in the last few months, we've all seen how dangerous even a few nuclear weapons can be in the hands of a small rogue regime. Now imagine the danger of hundreds of nuclear weapons in the hands of a vast Iranian Islamist empire with the missiles to deliver them anywhere on earth. I know there are those who still defend the dangerous deal with Iran, arguing that it will block Iran's path to the bomb. Ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what they said about the nuclear deal with North Korea. And we all know how that turned out. Unfortunately, if nothing changes, this deal will turn out exactly the same way. That's why Israel's policy regarding the nuclear deal with Iran is very simple. Change it or cancel it. Fix it or nix it. From the Caspian Sea to the Mediterranean, from Tehran to Tartus, an Iranian curtain is descending across the Middle East. Iran spreads this curtain of tyranny and terror over Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and elsewhere. And it pledges to extinguish the light of Israel. Today I have a simple message for Ayatollah Khamenei, the dictator of Iran. The light of Israel will never be extinguished. Netzach Israel lo yashakir. Those who threaten us with annihilation put themselves in mortal peril. Israel will defend itself with the full force of our arms and the full power of our convictions. As long as Iran's regime seeks the destruction of Israel, Iran will face no fiercer enemy than Israel.
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu there, the Prime Minister of the State of Israel. Now, during the Obama era, Israel wanted military action taken against Iran as a way of checking its nuclear ambition. But Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warned that his country would retaliate in full force if its nuclear facilities were attacked. Israel is a military power that Iran cannot withstand in a full-blown war. And considering the instability in the Middle East, the Obama administration opposed any military action against Iran. Israel produced nuclear weapons to protect itself. Why not Iran? One thing is clear. In world politics, the same rule does not apply. Alright, let's move on. Still looking at these dynamics of international politics, especially as regards the nuclear arms race. Former head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, Mohammed Al-Baradei, in his book, The Age of Deception, Nuclear Diplomacy in Treacherous Time, says both the United States and the United Kingdom have nuclear weapons and show no sign of giving them up. But they threatened Iraq for allegedly seeking to acquire such weapons. Al-Baradei states that for many in the developing world, and particularly in Arab and Muslim societies, this was both ironic and grossly unfair. Ron Rosenbaum's book, How the End Begins, The Road to a Nuclear World War III, has a 2009 statement of former Iranian President Hashemi Rafsanjani, where he averred that there will be a nuclear exchange between Iran and Israel. The exchange, according to him, will wipe Israel off the face of the earth. The book reveals the number of submarines Israel has in the seas in preparation of any nuclear war. Israel is the United States' strongest ally in the Middle East. It is one of the strongest countries in the world in terms of military capacity. In 1981, Israel's F-16 jet attacked and destroyed